This video brought to you by our Patreons. Please consider supporting this channel and joining our Patreons at patreon.com/NovaWing24. Hi there folks, my name is NovaWing24 and welcome to another little review of a ESP platform product. So today we're going to be having a look at this sleek little GA number from the 1970s vintage. If I can control my camera, of course, today. And we're having a look at the Bellanca Super Viking is what we're having a look at today, as we can see from that beautiful stenciling there on the nose. And this one comes to us as the latest released from developer Lionheart Creations. So I really wanted to, they're a developer I really enjoy, so it's always a great pleasure to be able to bring the products and have a look at them. And hopefully this one will be no exception. First off, I do want to say before we get too far into this, I do want to say thank you very much to the team over at Lionheart Creations for providing me with the review copy of this one today. Now, for your information, folks, that we are reviewing this in Prepared v4.5. We are reviewing that today. But this aircraft is fully compatible across all of the ESP gambit of sims, as I cut through a building there. We're looking at this one is available for and is in the single download, the single purchase will be compatible with FSX, FSX Steam, Prepared in all its formats, including Prepared v5. So there you go. Alright, so I guess first off, let's get started into it. So, what is the Super Viking? Well, if it looks like a bit familiar, it probably does. So it's actually based loosely off sort of the Mooney airframe. Which, you know, it comes from this era of sort of GA aircraft and very much the $100 hamburger sort of touring genre of airplanes is sort of where it harks its way back to. And it was designed in that sort of that Mooney era of looking for providing that sense of speed and that sense of comfort for those who are sort of embracing recreational aviation. So as in the form of a tourer, it is very sleek, it has a full set of retractable tricycle undercarriage, all beautifully modelled by the team at Lionheart Creations as well. Now, all the textures for this airframe are provided in full 4K texture, full high definition 4K texture set is used throughout, and boy is it spectacular. It really is. Like all the rivets are actually done handcrafted, like in just an incredible amount of detail. Like we got all the rivets, and actually not only that, but they're actually, as we cut through the model, they're actually 3D modeled as well. So it's not just sort of texture painted on screws. They are actually 3D models, and that's insane. And yet it still provides beautiful, seamless performance. At least that's what I'm finding so far throughout my review. So as I said, it's a quirky, cool-looking little aeroplane. This one, and it's one that as I said, I really enjoyed this sort of genre of flying, and that's why when I got a chance to hop in and take this one for a spin for you guys, I definitely took advantage of it. So as we can see, this aircraft is done in a exquisite 3D model, including the very sort of complex and fairly unique sort of gear assembly that comes through here. And also one of the things that's actually modeled really nicely about this airframe as well is the way that the gear actually extends and retracts as well. And hopefully we'll get a chance to see that, we will get a chance to see that later on in the video. But yeah, so there's all been absolutely exquisitely modeled, detailed texturing as well. As I said, we've got the props all beautifully detailed model there, engine behind it and modeled as well. So much detail going into like there's completely integrated landing lights into the actual fairing there as well, all beautifully detailed, and the light does work quite nicely at night as well. Coming through, we've got sort of our bulbs pictured on the end there. As I said, just this beautiful level of exquisite detail done by the entire team here at Lionheart. It's just absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's, as I said, you really absolutely cannot fault the 3D model for this one. The beautiful, high detail, incredible amount of texture work gone through here as well. You get 8 liveries are included with this one, all in various different factory standard and aftermarket liveries for various Bellancas around, so Super Vikings around the world. Alright, well, that is enough of us looking at this exquisite model here on the ground, which probably be about time for us to be able to get this into the air. So we're going to be here in the great state of Washington, in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to be doing a little bit of a flight through Seattle airspace. So we're going to a couple of regional strips, and we're going to enjoy a $100 hamburger. So let's get ourselves in the cockpit, get ourselves started up. And probably actually go through a couple of the quirks that we get with this aircraft. So, because don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful aircraft, but yeah, there are a couple of quirks with it. So, all right, let's quickly scoot around here, because like many aircraft of the era, you could only get in on one side of the aircraft, and it wasn't the pilot's side. So what we'll do is we'll open the door, and we will jump into the aircraft now. Alrighty, so here we are in the office, as it were, of the Bellanca Super Viking, and it's very much the sort of traditional sort of 1970s feel to it, but with a couple of modern modern touches here as well. Obviously, so this is one that's been retrofitted with some GPS units. So this one gives us functional GPS 500 and 430 unit as well. We might just close the door here, probably before I forget later on. It has, and one thing that it has, and I kind of like that the developer actually stuck with this. It has this terrible sort of carpet that is very much a feature of 1970s designs. Like, it just absolutely is. But it goes so well with the wood paneling as well. But again, it's that beautiful attention to detail that's come through from the developers to actually sort of give us that and actually sort of stay true to that, which is kind of cool and kind of awesome. Otherwise, this is very much a GA aircraft of its era, so it very much has the sort of feel. It's steam-driven gauges, it's steam-driven content. Obviously, sorry, I should have mentioned, I probably should have unhid that before that, but yeah, it is a hidden hideable yoke, so this is fully detailed there as well, with your trim built onto the yoke there. We'll hide it while we do our startup sequence and while I show off this control panel, the instrument panel here. And one of the other things that is, so it does have the custom options included options for GPS as well, but otherwise still very much a steam-driven aircraft. Now, one of the things that is great to show off with this one is there was a lot of work went into providing a custom coding for the Century 3 autopilot, which is very much still very much a fairly early sort of autopilot for GA aviation. And it's got its quirks and habits as well, and it's kind of cool how it's all done. So we'll show that off today. You do have the options sort of just of dropping it over onto nav and have GPS drive, nav 1 kind of thing to actually do that. But we're going to do a bit of radio nav during our transit through Seattle airspace today, so we can show off some of the features of that autopilot system there. Alright, other than that, as I said, pretty cool, pretty awesome. I just love the setup of it. It's just so cheesy, it really is. Now, probably while we're here, we will get ourselves underway. And as I alluded to just before, it's one of the quirks I've found with this aircraft. So if you're someone that enjoys doing your dark stars and stuff like that, and going through actually sort of going through the startup, because the startup sequence is fairly basic, fairly simple for this aircraft. But if you want to do it, there is a quirk and an oddity about it that you have to remember. And I've spoken with the developer at that, and they're still having a look at it. But as I said, I don't want to. It's a quirk. I don't think it takes away from the other great things about this airframe and about this model. But it is just something to be aware of if you are doing a non-control E start. So if you are starting it here, I just want to quickly. So what we'll do is we'll quickly get this run ready to go. So all right, pretty much a basic setup. So we've got our park brake is set. All right, so we're going to turn our fuel selector to both. Excellent. Okay. Put our battery mast on. Alright, so we'll put our prop and our mixture forward. So mixture full rich. And just so you can see here, as we wash up the prop blades as we bring our props there. Beautiful animation there on the prop as well. So that's all great to see that it's done. Alright, what we'll do is we'll give the engine, a couple of quick sets of prime. Alright, 3 pumps should be more than enough. We'll put our beacon light on. Alright, fuel pump is on. And drag across to start. There we go. Beautiful clean start. And we'll get our avionics powered up. Strobe and nav powered on. There we go. Alright, I'm going to open up my cowl flaps. Alright, now, I just wanted to showcase one of the oddities of this aircraft. So the way it's coded, so in the real aircraft, this setup is correct, and I have verified this against other, about pictures of actual Bellancas, is that the avionics switch is actually slave to the generator. The alternator is slave to the avionics switch. Now, for whatever reason in this model, there seems to be an oddity with the coding where it won't actually do that, and there's a shift pop-up where the alternator is actually separate. Now, if you do a Control E start, so sort of an auto start, it will trigger the alternator for you. However, if you're doing a manual start, for some reason it doesn't actually trigger the alternator to go on when you hit the avionics switch. So just something to be aware of, that you do have to bring up if you're doing a start manually, you do have to bring up the shift pop-up of the 2D panel here to be able to power on the alternator. So as I said, it's a small quirk. The developer is looking at it to potentially sort of do something about it in the future, but it is just something to be aware of if you are doing it at the moment. Alright, I think that's pretty much it at the moment. As I said, otherwise we're pretty much right. All still ready and started. Everything is good. Now I just need to 0.6. Okay, so we're going to be going via VOR on our way to our destination today. So we're going over VOR PAE on our way to Vashon Island. Alright, so we're going to set this there. Now, course, I believe should be 182. Okay. So that's 136. There we go. That's where we should be at. That looks about right. Alright, get my comm radios on. Looking good. I think we're just about ready to taxi. Alright. Brakes on, parking brake off. Alright, so we're ready to start our taxi and head out for our departure today. So, incidentally folks, we are going to be flying between, as I said before, we are doing a bit of a flight through beautiful Pacific Northwest. So we're doing a couple of Orbix airports today. So we're going to be leaving from Anacortes Airport, and we're going to be flying towards Vashon. We're going to be landing at Vashon Municipal Airport as well. We'll be finishing our test flight today. And taxiing, the taxiing is a little fast. As I said, it's a very powerful aircraft, this one, because it's a giant. Basically, it's a bit like the Mooney in that regard, in the fact that it's just basically a giant engine, and it's just such a sleek aerodynamic frame. The aircraft is actually capable of a 211 mile per hour or 200 knots cruise, sort of max cruise speed in calm weather. So it's a bit crazy, this one. Do our taxi here, set our takeoff flaps. A little bit squirrely as we're taxiing there. Now, one of the interesting, nifty little things that the developer does is, so Lionheart Creations, what they do is just to cut down on a bit of size. They actually repurpose sounds in your sim already. So they actually, if you install it into FSX, for example, it repurposes the engine and the aircraft sounds from the Mooney. If it's going into prepared, it repurposes the Mooney Bravo, which is another Lionheart Creations product. To be able to get that, so you're still getting accurate sounds because they're all using the same. They all use the same engine. But yeah, it's just a great way of actually sort of repurposing what's actually already in your sim to provide an effective way of delivering a great product to everyone. It's a quirky little, interesting little history. Well, not so much history thing, but a use of available resources to you. Alright, there we go. Alright, we're all lined up, so we're pretty much ready for our departure here. So we're going to be flying out, so we're going to be just heading out across the islands here. And hopefully sort of not getting lost in those clouds a bit up there. So, alright, so it's time for us to throttle up. And brakes off. Definitely feel that kick of that engine, feel the pull of that engine as soon as you start applying the power on the takeoff roll. Really feel that kick in. You do have to put in a fair bit of rudder to actually be able to hold off that amount of power when you're sort of pulling up through here. Now, one of the awesome things about this aircraft is that it's, as I said, it's very much a very zippy little aeroplane. And as part of that is that it climbs at an insane climb rate. Like it's actually sort of optimized for an 1,800 feet to 2,000 feet per minute ascent rate. Like it's just nuts what this thing can do. So we're going to start our turn here to get onto course. It's departing the airfield there. And we're we're at 2,000 feet per minute climb rate at the moment, and we're still going through 130 knots. This aircraft is just so zippy. She just loves to fly. And that's the kind of aircraft that I really enjoy. And I'm actually not even at full throttle. Actually, I'm only thinking about 90% throttle. 90% throttle, and still just beautifully just humming along there. So definitely our time to climb is going to be fairly short. Be shooting for about 5,000 to 6,000 feet, I think. See where we'll end up with these clouds that we're seeing here at the moment. Let's keep an eye on my GPS track there. Think about the Washington State, it's always so green. It's a bit like Ireland, it's always so green because it's always so raining all the time. I'm wondering, can we punch through these clouds? We might go a bit high. I had to sort of think about 5,500. So we can go punch through these clouds a little bit. Drift, so turn to the right there a little bit as we go up through these clouds. Yeah, I think we should be able to clear these clouds. I think 5,500, maybe 6,000 will be through the clouds. There we go. Yep, no problems. Busted through those. No problems at all. Okay, so let's settle on about 6,000 feet. Alright, as we approach on that altitude, slow that descent rate a little, or so that ascent rate, sorry. Now it's got a very large trim range, this aircraft. Alright. So what now we'll do is we'll get our autopilot on. Down a bit. Wind back the throttle a bit. Alright. Alright, so we'll get alright, we're going to set that because we're going to be setting it to a radio nav. So to engage the autopilot, first off you have to engage the roll, the roll servos have to be energized first. Next we're going to be, we've got omnis, which is our radio heading, so we're going to put heading on, and then we're going to put alt on, so for our altitude hold. So we've got our altitude hold set, and then along with that we also have the roll servos engage the actual autopilot itself, and the heading with Omni engaged there will actually mean that we will be able to hold the radio nav driven by nav 1. Right, okay. As I said, it's really, really cool. You can actually sort of move it onto like heading mode, and you can actually sort of do by roll there, left and right there, so that changes the heading. A lot goes through this one as well. Okay. In the meantime though, let's wind back the mixture. Always prop on top. There we go, looking good. Right. Just a little bit of reshuffling. Gently easing over that nav 1 there. Alright, now we've got that all stabilized in our cruise here. Let's go have another look at the outside of the aircraft. Alright, so this gives us a chance to be able to have a look again in detail of the beautiful exterior model that we get with this Super Viking here. And just some of the sleek lines that it really has. And I have to make sure that I remember to put out the camera for when we do our descent into Basham Municipal, because I do want to make sure that you guys get to see the unique nature that the gear actually extends. I do really want to show that off to you guys. But again, as we sort of saw before, we get to see this beautiful, incredibly detailed 3D model, and it just looks fast. Just the way it goes, it just looks sleek and fast, and as the aircraft it actually was itself in real life, and it just really has been captured by the team at Lionheart. And I hadn't noticed just actually how much detail had gone into the textures, like complete with like the dirt marks through those. That's cool. Like that's the kind of like this awesome attention to detail that you get to see with this really cool modeling here. Yeah, this is a really neat little airframe. It really is. Like I really like something that sort of gives us that experience of being able to fly and have that that freedom to be able to explore smaller and larger airports as well, and be able to sort of be perfectly at home inside of sort of controlled airspace, as well as also being able to sort of enjoy the $100 hamburger kind of runs. Beautiful, again, just admiring some of these high definition textures here. So as I said before, they are all 4K textures included as well. Now this is, although it is capable and is designed to work with all of the ESP family of sims, the developer does suggest does recommend that because it is the really high definition 4K textures, that it is most ideally suited to prepared V3 and above, because just the bit more grunt and a bit more computing power for that one as well. So as it still works in FSX, there's still some beautiful screenshots in the manual, and beautiful, exquisitely detailed manual as well, by the way, for this one as well. But yeah, as I said, just looks spectacular. I just really like it. It's just fun and zippy. and cute. It really is. Like, especially with those lights, the landing lights sort of built into the actual sort of gear fairings as well. Like, that's just a really... Like, it's a cool design feature. Like, and for me, okay, so it reminds me a little bit of pop-up headlights on cars. So, and that's a bit of a personal thing for me. Like, I used to own a convertible many years ago, which had the pop-up headlights. So it just reminds me of those, and that's just awesome. Anyway, alright, well, as I said, we're going to be flying here on a bit longer. What I might do is we might take a quick break in the video, but we'll rejoin when we come back in through for some changes to our course using our Century 3 autopilot system. And a bit of a refresher for those that may not have done radio navigation for a while, so you might be able to get a bit of a refresher on that. Alright, let's rejoin that in a few minutes. Alrighty, so we're just about to come over our DME, so we're actually going to change our modes shortly because we're going to have to, before we go over the zone of confusion before we go over a DME. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our nav mode onto heading. Change over to heading there. There we go. So that's going to hold steady. Because we'll be going over our DME very shortly. That's our waypoint, so we're about 2 nautical miles away. So to save us any issues, we've changed over onto heading, so that's now being controlled by the roll here, or by the heading knob over here on the main 6-pack over here. Remember from my nav charts and my route planning, once we hit here, we should be heading to about 176. We'll need to change that too. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our OBS course to 176. Change our heading to about 0. Pass over the zone of confusion there. VOR's covered there, 176. So we'll start to get that a bit closer in. Closer, and what we'll do now is we will re-engage into nav mode, and that's now acquired our signal. Well, now that we're on the outbound radial from PAE as we head to Vashon Municipal. So it'll do a little bit of a couple of serpentine S S maneuvers there as it sort of gets itself stable on the course. And there you go. That's kind of cool. Actually, this is giving me a great chance to actually sort of show off some of the. As I said, I love the detail of this of the interior sort of board here, and it's got this sort of mixture of sort of clean and dirty. Interesting enough, there's different internal texturing for different each of the external liveries for the aircraft has its own set of custom internal textures as well, so each one is slightly different. All the instruments are the same, but the textures themselves are based on their sort of matching sort of internal ones, which is kind of cool. It's kind of awesome. But also there's a couple of things that the developer has done with updating some of the navs as well on the GPS unit, is that you can actually sort of do things like that is sometimes used a bit harder to do with the buttons. You can actually sort of put in a couple of he calls them enhancements to the default GPSs. So you can actually sort of turn the terrain features on and off just at the click of the button there. Or if you click at the top part, it actually sort of brings the shift pop-up window up directly. And again, just press it and it sends it back to the board. So that's a very X-Plane-esque feature, funnily enough, that one. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Great to see this set up and done there. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Alright, that's pretty much it. We're sort of as established on our sort of cruise there, still comfortably going along here. That'll probably be about it for us now. Ooh, bit of a frame rate hit from the old Seattle scenery as that starts loading in the background there. Alright, well, we might leave that one there, and we'll rejoin this as we approach into Vashon Municipal, and hopefully I'll remember to give you guys a bit of an external view, especially to see us coming into land, and as you see the gear coming down, which is always kind of cool with this one. Alrighty, so we're on our descent. You'll be able to see a few maneuvers coming through here. So we've just been using our pitch on the Century 3 here. So left click for nose down, right click for nose up. Okay, we're going to disable that. Still uses the old default for the AP disconnect, which is a bit odd. Interesting enough, though, I think I was starting to mention it before I got distracted, is that the pitch range or the trim range on this aircraft is very, very significant. So he actually has this huge lever up here, as well as an electrically operated switch on the actual yoke itself, both of which are actually functional in the aircraft. Up here. 2,000 feet. That's our landing strip down there. Cut crosswind very shortly. I always keep forgetting how many airstrips are actually done here in the Pacific Northwest. I've always wanted to do a... several times I've actually tried to sort of... or I'd started working on some... potentially actually doing a series of actually doing flights and exploring Pacific Northwest. Particularly because there's just so many Orbix airfields here that we can actually sort of explore, and especially it's perfectly suited to sort of like the $100 hamburger kind of style flying, which I thoroughly enjoy. Alright, so we've done our flying crosswind, establishing ourselves on our downwind now, and we'll pop our gear out, and as I said, watch the little inset image to see some of the cool sort of parts of the gear popping out of this aircraft, how it actually sort of does it. So you sort of have the nose goes first, and then one main gear, and then the other. So it's almost very much a P40-esque sort of deployment of the gear, which is always kind of cool. I'll extend our downwind out here. As a side note, one of the things I noticed was, just noticed it actually doing this actually. So normally I use Rex Environment Force for some 3D sort of the shader support. However, I noticed that when I brought that extra window up, so you guys can see the external of me making sort of deploying the gear, and also potentially making a mess of my landing here. That the shaders don't like having a second window open, which is really interesting. It can't seem to apply it to both, so that's rather interesting. no pappies or line-up lights here. I'll be a good citizen. Put my landing lights on. Watch out for these very tall trees on final approach here. As I said, it's a very, very quick aircraft, but it's still handles fairly well, even at relatively slow speeds. But it does feel fast though. I mean, your VREF for this is still sort of 60, 70 knots. So you're still making a fairly rapid approach, especially to a small strip like this. And down safely. There we go. That was a lot of fun. I love this aeroplane. I genuinely love this aeroplane because it's just it's so zippy, and you feel fast for a GA aircraft, which is kind of nice. Okay, especially a piston one like this. Anyway, okay, so let's looks like we've got some guest parking here, so let's park a bit here. I think this looks good. And we can wrap up, and we can give our final thoughts. And we can say hello to some of the locals. That's the other. There is another quirk I wanted to show you guys while I'm here as well. Before I turn the engine off, let me just close that window. That's what I want. Okay, so I mentioned that there's the quirk of the alternator. You have to sort of do the shift button as well. One of the other quirks about this aircraft is the cargo door here at the back. So it's on a door command, so it's on Shift E2, and you can pop the door open. However, for some unknown reason, it might just be me, I don't know, but for me, I can only open that door when the engine is running, and there's some spare oil supplies there in the back there for aeroshell as well. But I can only open and close that door when the engine is running. If the engine is off, then it doesn't work for me, so I just wanted to show that for you guys before I turn the engine off. Alright, let me just shut it down now. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's, speaking of, let's shut the engine down now. So let's go here. So that is off. Okay, and fuel is off. Lights off. Okay, pumps are off. Flaps already up. And go starter off. Avionics off. And master off. There we go. Okay, and as you can see here, it is, as I said, the shutdown sequence, even though I did a manual shutdown here, that's all tied correctly. It's just the power up sequence where it doesn't seem to work. So, odd quirk, not sure what's going on. There you go. Alright. Okay, let's step out of the aircraft and give our final thoughts. Alrighty, so final thoughts on the Bellanca Super Viking from Lionheart Creations. So, overall, I love it. I really enjoy it. It's zippy, it's fast, it's fun, it's stable. It poses just enough of a challenge of both in terms of flying, because she is a little touchy, particularly with the power being pushed out by that engine on a takeoff roll or in a climb. She will catch you unawares, and it will, she will catch you unawares, and you will be made to learn to fly her. It's got a little bit of, there's some challenge in the systems as well, particularly if you're going to fly using, the old Century 3 autopilot rather than sort of cheat. Not cheating, but sort of deferring to GPS waypoints and plans as well. So there is that bit of an extra bit of challenge that you have to learn and actually sort of, again, treat the instruments with a bit of respect as well. It does have its negatives though, where, as I said, like that, the odd quirk of the alternator not working, and like literally the way I figured that out was that when I took it for the first test flight, suddenly I was probably 6 minutes into my flight, and suddenly all my instruments went dark, and I was like, wait, what? And it was through a bit of trial and error, and eventually I figured out that what it was is the alternator wasn't being powered up. So that's a quirk, and then as I said, the quirk at the door. Not sure what's going on with that. So there you go. But otherwise, does it detract a lot? Well, as I said, there are workarounds for it. It would be nice if it was fixed, absolutely. And as I said, I've mentioned the developer. The developer's looking into it to see what's going on from it, but go from there. But as I said, you can control if you're a Control E start person, and you're in it just for the flying experience rather than the creation experience, the sort of, procedure in the start, starts and stuff like that, then you really can't go wrong with this. It's an exquisitely high definition detail of all the textures here. Beautiful high definition model for a awesome, zippy, powerful little aircraft that is just a bucket of ton to fly. So yeah, overall, despite its quirks, despite its couple of issues, I still have to recommend it because it's just so much fun. So yeah, there you go. And it was fun exploring in Pacific Northwest. There you go. Alright, well, that does round out this review of the Lionheart Creations rendition of the Bellanca Super Viking. I do want to say thank you very much to Lionheart Creations for supplying me with the review copy of this one. This one is available direct from Lionheart Creations or from your favourite flight sim retailer. Available now for all of the ESP platforms from FSX, FSX Steam, all the way through all of the prepared editions, including up to V5. And with that, folks, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying this content and want to see more. And if you do want to consider supporting the channel more directly, please consider supporting us over on our Patreon at patreon.com/NovaWing24. Otherwise, folks, you can catch up with all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search NovaWing24. Alright, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.